Hello, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to the Sports Boost team for organizing this event and inviting us to be part of this panel. We're going to talk about how the digital world interacts with the sporting world, how traditional sports is adapting to new technologies, new innovations that are coming to market. And we're interested to hear and share projects that are underway, different perceptions on culture, how people are reacting to these changes. So I hope this will make a great discussion with everyone involved here. And we'll have a bit of a mix of esports, traditional sports, sports broadcasting. So I think we're going to have a nice mix. So myself, Adrian, I'm part of Bitcraft Ventures. Bitcraft Ventures is an $800 million US fund out of the US that focuses on the intersection of digital media, immersive tech, so think of VR, AR, as well as gaming, esports, and even newer technologies such as Web3 and crypto. So the first question that I want to put to the panel is, first of all, please introduce yourselves, and maybe one sporting event or one gaming event or one item that's happening in the world that you're excited about. So let's start with you.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeffrey. I'm the investment manager of Comcast Sports Tech. Comcast Sports Tech works with Comcast. We own NBC Sports, Sky Sports, some professional sports teams in the US, and we also work with our media rights partners, which includes the Premier League, NASCAR, PGA Tour. And so we have a broad insight into the world of sports at large. What we do is we catalyze innovation to work with these corporates. One of the reasons I love sports is growing up in Wisconsin, there wasn't a whole lot going on besides sports. And so growing up each year watching the Packers make it to the playoffs and usually not advance too far beyond that. But you know, there's something about sports that just brings people together, young and old, that I think is really special.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Adrian, for introduction. My name is Gustavo Arellano. I work with the International Basketball Federation, FIBA. I'm head of business development, meaning in this organization, all the new projects that could generate additional sources of revenue. Here, mainly to speak about eFIBA, our esports version of the game, and the reason that we will explain why we're developing it. I think in terms of event, I need to speak about the next Olympic qualifying tournaments that we have, which one of the hosts will be Valencia, Spain, where the last 4 tickets for the Olympics will be defined. That will be, I will say, the next one to follow. But of course, last night we had to say that we're watching the NBA finals, and this is a big one to follow. And of course, a bit of the Kings League World Cup. I'm also checking closely to see what we can learn from what they're doing.
Yeah, my pick was the NBA Finals as well. Unfortunately, Luka Doncic lost yesterday, but we'll see.
It will be a long final.
Thank you. My name is Borja Altolaguirre. I am leading the revenues at TNBT. TNBT is right now the #1 esports teams for Spanish-speaking countries in the world. We compete in a various series of video games like League of Legends, Valorant, here in Europe, and also we have a team in Miami for Call of Duty. And right now we're in that path of diversifying our revenues with new productions and new media, talents, trying to put all our knowledge in the digital media into another IPs and products. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sorry for the late entry.
No problem. Any particular events that are happening in the esports world?
I'm a Barca fan, so it's not a good week to watch or a good season. But yeah, I mean, it's generally football and lately Formula 1 as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Monty. I'm representing HAM23. It's an ecosystem about sports tech. We started in 2019 promoting sports tech from Barcelona. In this year, nobody was talking about the sport tech. It was like talking in Japanese in Barcelona. If you say sports tech, was very niche. And we say knocking all the doors about, hey, sport tech, sport tech, sport tech. Now the Council of Barcelona is investing in sport tech, very proud for us. And we are more than 100 startups near Barcelona, not just in Barcelona. And well, respect from the major event. I'm from rugby. My best of all is the Rugby World Cup, that is every 4 years annually, maybe is the Six Nations the best event that I follow.
Yeah, it's a very grueling sport, rugby. I don't know how you build the guts
For me,
to run into each other like that.
Yeah, very traditional, very difficult, very different that gaming. But well, we can discuss today how there are synergies between the traditional world of sport and esports or gaming.
Yeah, so leading up from that, like if you look at traditional sports, you're seeing how they're adapting to the digital world, right? So just to give a basic example, the NBA actually changed certain rules so that there are more highlights, more scoring opportunities, which creates better, more shareable experience to social media, which appeases the younger, more digital intuitive fans. So my question to the panel is like, what are you seeing in your worlds, projects you're involved in, that's creating this intersection of technology, innovation, and sports? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the themes that we're really seeing, and this is not my original thought to clarify, there's a fund called Galaxy Interactive led by Michael, and he made a really interesting comment when we were talking a couple weeks ago about how gaming is really about culture. We think about, if we think about expanding to, I'm from the States, if I'm expanding to Spain or the Netherlands or wherever, I have to learn how to speak the language, or at least the business language. The way we do business is not exactly the same place to place. In the same way, we have to think about, as we encounter the gaming space, what are the ways that gaming natives interact with their content, interact with each other, interact with brands. And so one of the big things that we're thinking about is, what does community look like? That is kind of the experience of gaming really lends itself to creating really tightly devoted, whether it's to a game, whether it's to a tournament, whether it's just to your teammates that you log in at 2 a.m. with. But that idea of how can we create authentic community, leveraging technology that then out of that place of community, the Premier League can connect with these people, or NBC in our sports can kind of connect with those people. And so that's probably one of the projects that we're thinking about just broadly. What are the ways that these gaming native consumers can interact with our brands, our sports, our way of delivering content?
Yeah, building exactly from that point, us as an international federation, our main role is to develop the sport. How we will keep developing basketball worldwide. And what we have found lately are two things. First, there are more and more people now learning about the game through a console, through a small screen first, before getting a ball in their hands.
Yeah.
And this is a community that also needs to be embraced, that needs to be listened to, and we need to serve them as we serve all the players, all the coaches, all the referees in the world of sports. So this community is lately being developed by other platforms, meaning mainly in the gaming space. So for us, first is access to a new community that speaks basketball, that wants to talk basketball, and is core to our development, to the development of our sport. So that is the first reason for why we're now developing or going through esports or through the creation of eFIBA. And the second one is that data tell us lately that now playing a video game contributes 3 times more to become a fan of something than it was from our generation. So now playing the game of, you name it, will make you be a better fan or closer fan for something. So leveraging on the cultural aspect that you bring up, it is our role now to embrace it, but remaining true to our values, remaining true to our sports, in a way to engage with a wider community. Not only to grow and speak to the younger, as normally is the headline of why you are doing in sports, but understanding that it is a way to keep talking about our sport. And this is the reason why I think, connected to what the NBA, your NBA example, is the constant evolution of how to develop the same sport.
No, it's interesting, like a bit of a side note, like I have friends who just had children here in Madrid, and the first thing you see is their baby wearing a kit of Real Madrid. So that's kind of how they get indoctrinated into the sport. But it's interesting how you're saying now the digital aspects are teaching people how to learn about the sports, how to enamor with the sports.
And it's happening more and more to sports, not only to basketball. People are learning things different from how we learn it. I learned basketball by playing on the court, learned football by playing on it, but now you can play in different ways, and this is a community that you need to address. And this is why, as a federation, we are very clear in this gaming, and with a team of esports on the side, we are very aware that sports simulation is just a very small piece of the pie in the economy or in the landscape of esports, but is addressing a huge community that we need to talk to.
Yeah, and regarding to you, Borja, with
Yeah.
regards to video games, my nephews are just crazy about video games. So how are people learning about video games?
So we face a lot of challenges. I think that, versus traditional sports, I mean, we don't have broadcasting rights. We don't have a lot of things that obviously there is in that context. But we're lucky that our connection with the publisher, who is actually the owner and the developer of the game, is very direct. So we are constantly talking to them in terms of how to read the data that our users and the players are doing in the video game, to make it more attractive and also to make it more relevant to our revenue streams, not only in terms of sponsorship or in fan monetization, but also in terms of, at the end, the leagues are the best marketing tool that the publishers have to promote the games. And as much people play, as much people is engaged, as much people is like talking and following us, the snowball is bigger. So I think that's, as you said before, with the federations and with the leagues, I think that in the esports context is much more well connected, and the intersection is much more clear. When you want to make significant changes in the regulation, in the rules of the game, or even in the characters of the game, and that is happening almost every year. So I think it's much more direct, path from the, need of innovation to the rule itself in the video game.
Interesting. Jose?
Well, from a point of view, we are seeing startups in our ecosystem and indie developers using engine motors like Unreal or Unity to develop experience for the sports world. But the sports, the tradition is very traditional, the top teams, and they are not adapting very easy, very soon, this kind of new tools, because they need to monetize from the first moment. Okay, the top teams, the top leagues needs to monetize the experiences for the first time, and it's not easy. I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, everyone was talking about metaverso. Mm-hmm. Okay, and teams can't to fail because they need to success with every tool that they adopt, and this is a challenge. This is a challenge for the developers and teams to find this mix or new experiences, but with monetization, okay? And the generation Theta, that is the new revenue streams for sport teams, is a very interesting part of the community for the sports teams, but they are online, they live online, they work online, they study online, they enjoy online, and this is the kind of things that we need to bring to the traditional sports.
Okay, no. Interesting, and actually leveraging on this last point of traditional sports, in our portfolio we have an investment. It's called Karate Combat. So it basically takes traditional karate rules, slices them up so that, similar to the NBA example, you have speed runs of karate fights, so you get many KOs. The distribution is over Twitch, and they create engagement using Web3 and crypto technologies. And when you see the highlights online, the backdrop is a game studio, which is powered by Unreal Engine. So you use these very mega, ultra sci-fi backdrops. So it looks really cool when you're watching on your mobile. So these are new ideas that are emerging. They're small leagues at the moment, but really enabling the intersection of technology and traditional sports. So maybe with the metaverse example, we had a technology in search of a solution and a problem, to your point we discussed earlier. And maybe now we're starting to understand a little bit what these two new technologies do so that we can create better experiences alongside the traditional sports with them. And recently, Piqué, a famous soccer player for Barcelona, raised about $65 million for his Kings League, which is an adaptation of soccer in a smaller field, distributed again online through streaming channels, and I think that's a common theme. Maybe you can comment a lot about that. To, I think, good success in these early days. There's a lot of fanfare around it, and now it's going a bit global. So my question to the panel is, like, does traditional sport need to adapt or die, or there's a space in between, or a place where they can all live together?
Jenny, if you want to go first, I'm happy to.
I can take this one first. For the adaptation, I think, yes, we need to adapt. But from basketball point of view, and with what we have discussed, when we see examples like this in the market, we need to stay true to our values. We need to stay true to our identity and demonstrate. That doesn't mean that we cannot listen to the audience. We cannot adapt in the way of how we conduct tournaments, on how we test different things. I think one of the latest example that we saw with our friends from NBA was the creation of the in-season tournament, which was basically an NBA 2K League simulation within the season, which for them was, it was not product of 2-3 discussions, was years of testing to create a new product that will create a different narrative and conversation within it. So to your question, yes, adaptation is needed, but we will continue seeing in the market more and more different games. You have this example of the Kings League, but lately we also phygital games that were half physical, half esports in Russia. Good example, good setup, in theory, good engagement, but again, they will be continue coming examples trying to disrupt the market. That doesn't mean that we need to change immediately. For us, lately we have learned that it's not only about the time or how people consume, you need to have the right product. Twitch is the best example that when we have the discussion in sports that we need to go all to highlights and we need to adapt just to be more relevant for highlights, you see that the average time on Twitch continue being longer and longer. So how you explain that people stay longer time in Twitch, but then you're looking to consume different the sports content? Yeah. It is about the type of format, it is about the right content, it's about speaking the right language, not necessarily the literal language, but the cultural fit within the sport. And I think that's a challenge for us, for all of us that work in sports, to find that sweet spot of creating the right content to address to the right people. And I think all people working in sports are going through that, navigating that challenge.
Yeah, maybe for you, Borja, like gaming was born online, right? Or at least really grew out of that environment. So yeah. I guess it comes easy, maybe not.
No, I think that the Kings League, for us at the Redis was like a big bang of attention, actually because it took a lot of elements from the video games and put it in a real football pitch. But also, it's important to understand also that new generations, they have the perception that Real Madrid is the same as important in their values that a Kings League team or a eSports team. There is no that line that we have in our generation that says, oh, Real Madrid, is 100-something years old, and then Heretics is like only 7 years, and then Kings League is 3 years old. I think that the younger generations, they don't differ from being a fan of Real Madrid or Team Heretics or a Kings League team. So that's the number one, learning that we got from that. And the second one is that, creators economy, it's a reality. We have Mr. Beast having much more subscribers than Netflix. If you go to YouTube, you have like millions of dollars invested in, videos of YouTube, which, years ago was almost impossible. And I think that the Kings League also brought something that it's, how influencers can have ownership in a competition that is taking place in a real sport. And we're seeing this, in capital investments in the States. We just know last week that there is a new 3x league in the States with investors like from soccer. So I think it's like intersection of various elements, but now they have the challenge, to become, to keep the relevance up, because it's an 8-hour format. It's a lot of brands. It's going to be very difficult to keep that hype high. Okay. But at the same time, I think that for traditional sports, I think it's a reality that came super fast But I think for all of us in this panel, it's a great example of that the things are, you can imagine things with new rules, with new owners, with new, even changing the rules of the game and not being FIFA. And it's a big reality. So, yeah, I think that things like Kings League is going to happen in other sports very quickly. Because, Leaf Golf, obviously, it's another example in the States on how, players with capital, change the rules of golf in 3 years. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see much more movements in that space.
Very good.
Well, in traditional sports, it works. The model works. You have a lot of revenues, and why to change if it works? Okay, but yes, they are always adapting to technology, to new technology, but slowly. For example, the FVR, okay, the VAR, VAR, started in La Liga 2 years ago, one season or 2 seasons ago, but this is every week that people is talking is VAR is necessary or not, because every play is judged for the people, etc. I think this week the Premiership vote about if they take off or not. In rugby, the name is TMO, is the same. It started 20 years ago, but there are not problems with TMO. And the technology works, but the sports is very traditional, very slowly to adapt new, because works. They produce a lot of millions of revenue, and they are very sensible to change, to new, like the Kings League is a good project. They are not monetizing still, okay? But, well, we are going to see how to run the next year with the Kings League.
I think that's the key, is the sustainability of the project. I think Kings League is going in a very good path, but you will see still with gaming, and what we have seen lately with gaming is that the sustainability of the projects are the ones who actually decide if this will be going through or not. And I think you will agree that the last 2 years, gaming ecosystem have been suffering a bit, a lot of layoff. It's normalizing from what it was 5 years ago, exponential growth, and that setup is changing with new players, new economies. I think Saudi with the esports World Cup is trying to shape the new economy of gaming, and that, depending on how that will continue being sustainable, all the ecosystem, all the stakeholders of that ecosystem will follow. And that's one of the new elements coming now from traditional sports. You have Olympic esports games also coming. And to second what you're saying, it will be, depending on how fast traditional organizations will adapt to all these changes to make sure that this actually becomes sustainable. And we're going in this, I would say, storm of new things as we speak.
I love what my friends are saying, and if any of you ever speak in a panel, make sure you don't speak last. I don't have much to talk about now after they all shared all those gems. But I think to your point about adding value to the ecosystem, one quick point is, because we kind of have insight, not just Premier League and teams and leagues, but we also from NBC Sports, Sky Sports, and also just the businesses that we have, we're creating, working with you all to create new ways to, for example, what does ad inventory look like in these new formats? Or what are kind of sellable moments that we can create that go beyond just the traditional subscriptions or ad-based revenue models, that we're figuring out new ways of not only delighting the fans, but also really producing value for everyone along this ecosystem. And it's really interesting. One of the things that I've noticed, you're mentioning Web3, but one of these things in gaming is I feel like it has further democratized access to not only creating content, consuming content, but then also receiving value from that content in ways that previously, for better or for worse, were very limited to, if you own the league or own the club, that is where the lion's share of the revenue goes to. But now with a lot more decentralized models, we're seeing there are new ways for kind of people to not only participate in terms of, oh, this is fun, I want to watch it, but I'm actually getting something, whether that's monetary or otherwise, that adds greater engagement, et cetera. So love all the points you guys are making.
Yeah, so we're close to being out of time. So maybe a quick closing remark is something I always received a lot from sports are certain values. Maybe anyone wants to comment, a last comment on the values of sports and kind of how they see those moving on in time. Anyone wants to volunteer?
What was the question? Well, I think for us, again, like I said at the beginning, it's about developing basketball and stay true to our values and developing the game. And we will continue doing that, keeping an eye and trying to adapt as quick as we can, but keeping core to what we do, which is developing of the sport. So that needs to remain center, and we will continue to be pushing for that. I think doing something different will harm, actually, our mission of existing as an organization.
Yeah, and speaking of values, I'm an active player in Ultimate Frisbee. It's a silly sport. We run around catching a piece of plastic. But one of the things we talk about is the spirit of the game. This idea that isn't unique to Frisbee, but it's very similar to this idea of be competitive on the pitch. You're trying to win, but at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all have respect, and we're all trying to be better people. And I think retaining that ethos in our business, in our family, in all the different environments that we're in. For me, I feel like that's one of those core values that sports has really translated to make me a better individual and help to show up and add value to the rooms where I show up.
It's good. Okay. So I think we're out of time, Jose.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, ending the note on a good feeling. So thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this panel.
Thank you. Thank you.